cryptocurrency is great if you're a drug dealer or a people trafficker or involved in grooming gangs and all of that. I mean, it's an absolute boon to the world's criminals and nasty people. And why is Farage so keen on relaxing the rules on cryptocurrency?
There are three very important words for Nigel Farage at the moment. They are purely personal capacity. Those words are the heart of the Reform UK leader's defence against allegations he didn't properly declare help he received in the year before he was elected as an MP. First, we heard of the £5 million given to him by billionaire Christopher Harborne, who has investments in cryptocurrency. Now the Sunday Times has revealed how a convicted fraudster and crypto entrepreneur has given Farage use of his house, help with security, help with social media. His name is George Cotterill, close enough to Farage to call him Daddy. But were these gifts purely personal? The Times this morning reports Cotterill was giving out business cards in his own name with Reform UK and Nigel Farage's work email printed on them.
Reform UK says Cotterill was an unpaid volunteer with no formal role at Reform UK, and that the business card was designed to help donors or other members of the public easily get in touch with Nigel Farage's office. It was not intended to suggest any formal position or authority.
Let's talk to Michael Crick. He's the author of a biography of Nigel Farage called One Party After Another. Joins us now. Michael, morning to you.
Good morning.
How troublesome are these allegations on top of other allegations for Nigel Farage, do you think?
Well, they're extremely troublesome. I mean, already the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner, Daniel Greenberg, is investigating Nigel Farage over the donation of £5 million he received from Christopher Harborne, the cryptocurrency millionaire. That investigation's been going on a couple of months now. And if Greenberg finds that Farage disobeyed the rules which require that any donations received in the 12 months before you become an MP, as well as while you're an MP, if he finds that they should have been registered, then I think Farage is in big trouble. There's a possibility that he'll be suspended. If he's suspended for long enough, that could then lead to a by-election forced upon him in Clacton. And now we find another instance where Farage clearly received a donations in kind, really, security and accommodation and staff from his great friend George Cotterill. And so it's double the seriousness. But more important, I think, the Sunday Times investigation shows that Farage not only employed somebody with a criminal record who'd spent time in jail in America, we knew all about that, but it showed the extraordinary world of George Cotterill, the way in which he runs a gambling crypto business in Montenegro. The Sunday Times alleged that there are suspicions of criminally breaking the British gambling laws in this business that is run by Cotterill. What is Farage doing associating with this man? Farage has, there are 4 people in Farage's career who've gone to jail for acts of dishonesty, and Cotterill is one of them. What kind of world does Farage live in, and what kind of world would a Farage government be given these standards of behaviour?
And there's the shadow of cryptocurrency in a lot of this stuff, isn't it? Which is the worry that people have, is that Farage, as a Prime Minister down the line, will have to have an opinion on cryptocurrency. We know from Reform's literature that they want a broadening of the regulations on cryptocurrency to make it more of a feature in our lives, and he's hanging out with rich people who have interest in cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and it seems to me that cryptocurrency is great if you're a drug dealer or a people trafficker or involved in grooming gangs and all of that. I mean, it's an absolute boon to the world's criminals and nasty people. And why is Farage so keen on relaxing the rules on cryptocurrency? He even had a meeting with the governor of the Bank of England in the autumn of last year to lobby against the possibility that this country would bring in its own state cryptocurrency, digital currency, I presume, in order to improve standards of behaviour in the world of crypto. But Reform is not known for having many policies, but it's drawn up quite a lot of policies on cryptocurrency. So the whole thing stinks. Now, Whether this makes any difference in terms of Reform voters, I'm not sure. I think if there was a by-election in Clacton forced upon Nigel Farage, he might well win that by-election. On the other hand, I think there has to be a bit of a possibility that if he's forced to fight a by-election in Clacton, he'll just say, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to walk away. He's walked away from the position of leadership 3 times before in his long career as a party leader in the various parties he's led. And, he's clearly very tired at the moment. He's clearly pretty fed up. He did a whole very tetchy series of interviews last week when he was asked about Christopher Harborne and his donation of £5 million to a personal donation to Farage. And he's under a lot of pressure right now, not just over this issue, but also from the right of himself, from Rupert Lowe and his new party, Restore Britain, who won an extraordinary number of votes in the Makerfield by-election. Things are not looking good for Farage right now. Having said that, Reform are still doing pretty well in the polls. They won more council seats than anybody not long ago. And, it would be foolish to write them off. And there are 3 years before the Prime Minister, whoever that is, has to call an election.
There's an awful lot going on there, Michael. Really good to speak to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's Michael Crick there, author of a biography of Nigel Farage called One Party After Another. There's an interesting question whether Reform could survive Nigel Farage deciding to step away. There's a famous World Cup song, Kate, called No Scotland, No Party. The political version of that would be No Farage, No Party. And that's definitely on people's minds if you support Reform UK, I suspect. There's a lot of football around today, and there may be a link at some point when we get to Andy Burnham. Just keep this in your mind. World Cup final 19th of July, Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister on the 20th of July. That's a little link between the two stories of the morning. The other story of the morning started yesterday in the Sunday Times to do with Nigel Farage. The Times this morning reveals that the convicted fraudster and crypto entrepreneur George Cotterill was giving out business cards with his name on, as well as Reform UK and Nigel Farage's email address. The news follows the Sunday Times uncovering the depth of the two men's relationship. Cotterill gave Farage use of his house and paid for security and social media in the year before the Reform UK leader was elected as MP. Ollie Cole is the Times Radio's newsroom reporter and can fill in some more details. Ollie, morning to you.
Hi, Kay. Hi, Stig. It's lovely to be with you. That's what we're all doing now.
Yeah. He did sound like
not quite a Harry Kane level, but it's not far off. Yeah.
You get excited about politics, so I wouldn't actually put it past you to be that excited. This story matters because Nigel Farage is one of the most significant politicians in the country. The fate of Nigel Farage and the fate of Reform absolutely dictates the next Prime Minister of this country, it's fair to say, isn't it? And the question is, are questions now being asked about his transparency when it comes to people who've given him money or services?
Yeah, Nigel Farage and Reform, even before Nigel Farage returned to sort of frontline politics and said, I'm going to stand to be an MP for Clacton, are intertwined. And this is the difficult thing for Reform in this particular story, which is, yesterday, an incredible investigation by Gabriel Pogrund and the Insight team looking into the history of this man, George Cotterill, who served time in the US, and Nigel Farage. And the line from Reform UK was that they go back years, and they do, about 10 years they've been sort of close allies to each other. And therefore, what George Cotterill was doing for Nigel Farage was purely a personal gift. Now, the difficulty comes in the follow-up from the Times today. George Greenwood and the rest of the Inside team basically, have pointed out that actually last year George Cotterill was handing out business cards with Reform UK's logo on, with Nigel Farage's email address on, which shows that even though he didn't have an official role within the party, there is a link there somewhere along the way. Now, Reform say, essentially it was just for George Cotterill to, if he was at a thing and he met, nice, interesting business people who wanted to help out Reform, he could at least share the contact details with them and have something to hand that he could use. But it does rub up against the idea that Reform was saying yesterday that this is purely personal and purely down to their friendship. You've got to remember as well that, Nigel Farage wasn't running to be the MP for Clacton when this happened, but he was the honorary president of the party and the majority shareholder of the party as well. Reform and Nigel Farage are interlinked, and that's the issue.
And the point is also that once you then become an MP, you have to go back 12 months before you became an MP when some of this stuff was happening.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where the referral you heard from Josh Braberinde earlier and Labour, Alex Barras-Kirsten, Curtis have both referred to the Commissioner for Standards, who I imagine we will hear something from today. He is already investigating this £5 million cryptocurrency donation from Christopher Harborne. They have asked for him to look into this latest track of spending and gifting. It's really interesting, actually, the rules. So 12 months beforehand, you, as an MP, you're allowed to take personal gifts if they are purely personal. So if they are from a family member or friend for, say, helping out, cover your rent, or building a shed in your garden or something like that, that's sort of fine. But the interesting language in the Code of Conduct says MPs must not disclose any benefit which might reasonably be thought by others to influence their actions or words. And that's the difficult bit, because you've got Daniel Greenberg there, the Standards Commissioner, who is a lawyer. He knows, parliamentary legislation and the law very, very well. And in a court of law, which this won't be, but in a court of law, you have to judge that reasonable person's expectation quite often.
Well, that's an interesting point, Ollie, because this doesn't pass the punter test, in my opinion, because no one builds you a shed or gives you money or arranges your security. It's not how the real world works. People either give you things in return for things, or they don't give you anything at all. I think it's this mad notion that there's such a thing as a significant personal gift that's not a birthday present. I mean, outside of a birthday present, that's not how the world functions to most people. And he sets himself up as a man of the people. Getting given stuff by big crypto guys isn't how most people would regard the world working, would they?
Well, this is the difficulty. I think there are some Reform supporters who, genuinely for them, the cause of Reform UK is greater than this, and there we are.
And we're getting some of them getting in touch
exactly,
today.
and that will be the case. The issue is, however, Nigel Farage pitched himself as an anti-establishment figure. He once said he, as a politician, couldn't be bought, and that builds into that perception, whether it's founded in accuracy or not. Now, the interesting thing about, what Reform have done in the last 24 hours, if they very much, to bring it back to the World Cup, played the man and not the ball. They have gone after Gabriel Pogrund in quite an extraordinary way, to go after a man who is a renowned award-winning journalist, and they've gone after him for saying that he's a Labour stooge. Now, I will remind them that this is the man who broke the story of Lord Alley's donations early on in Keir Starmer's premiership and caused what's essentially...
He's pretty good on stories of alleged corruption.
He's an equal opportunities corruption finder, and so they've gone after him. And they've done that after Robert Jenrick was on the broadcast airwaves yesterday, essentially confirming every single fact of the story. So where this goes next is going to be a really, really tricky pitch.